Gary Williams here. Some friends of mine are making a difference in the community, and one of the ways they're doing that is helping to sponsor this podcast. Petroselli Homes Realty Group is a boutique brokerage service located in downtown Niles. They offer a personal and intentional touch to the home buying and selling market. They take the time to learn each client's story, much like this podcast, because to them, the first step in linking buyers to the home of their dreams starts with understanding and a great deal of trust. John and Jennifer Petroselli have had the honor of helping countless buyers and sellers make effective real estate decisions to plant their roots, raise their families, expand their wealth, or simply relax and retire. So if what I've described is what you might be looking for in a realtor, I suggest getting in touch with Petroselli Homes on Niles Boulevard in downtown Niles. Now, coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time. Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
Hello, Fremont. You're listening to episode number 29 of the Fremont Podcast. This has been an exciting week for the city of Fremont. If you are at all following the Fremont Podcast social media, and I hope you are, we are on Instagram, pretty active there, and have a Facebook page, a Twitter account. But if you are following the Fremont Podcast social media, you will know that this week we opened a brand new bookstore right downtown Fremont, Banter Books. I did an interview with Amy, the owner, for episode 28. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, then I would go back and listen to that episode after you're done listening to this episode, of course. But Banter Books on Capitol Avenue just opened up this week, grand opening, the ribbon cutting, and it was great. There were dozens of people there, and it was just an exciting moment for the city of Fremont. If you have not yet made it down to Banter Books, then you should do that. Maybe you can hit up the Street Eats on Friday night, and they're open till 9 o'clock. The bookstore is open till 9 o'clock to go right along with the Street Eats downtown. So you should take advantage of that, and it's an exciting time. Another thing that happened this week is that we as a country, for the second year, observed Juneteenth as a federal paid holiday. Juneteenth this year fell on Sunday. Monday was the federal paid holiday. But Juneteenth signifies the equality and hope that everyone can have in our country. And it is in light of this holiday that I wanted to share with you a conversation that I recently had with Dr. Bishop, who is the new president of Ohlone College right here in Fremont, California. Dr. Bishop is the first African-American president of that college, and I was able to sit down with him and talk with him about what it means for him and what it means for Ohlone College to be the president and to carry the college forward with his experience and his vision. I'm excited that you get to hear this conversation with him, but before we do that, we have another moment recorded in history. It's exciting to listen to the voices of our past and to hear what they experienced and hear how they lived. So before my conversation with Dr. Bishop, here's another moment in Fremont history. The historical record is inherently flawed, and sometimes we only get a glimpse of someone's life. We found a glimpse like that in a snippet of audio archived by the Washington Township Museum of Local History, located here in Fremont. During an interview recorded by Philip Holmes, longtime Fremont resident Winnie Pereira mentions the Nagai family, who were farmers in the Mission San Jose area.
Do you remember any hotels on Washington Boulevard, on the Irvington Road?
There was none.
Above your house there?
None.
In your day, you didn't?
No, because it was all farm. In other words, right next to our house, there was a Japanese family that raised strawberries.
What was their name?
Nagais.
You got it.
Yeah, Nagais.
That's like Nagai, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Were they above your house or below?
They were above it. And they had, they raised strawberries in there.
Was it the
Great.
30s when the guys raised strawberries? Was that the 30s?
Oh, yeah, it'd have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Bernice Nagai, she graduated high school with me. And she's in Los Angeles, I think, or something.
Do you remember when Mission Street, the main street?
You've tested audio.
Go ahead and talk just a little bit on that.
Just test and see, and yeah, my background's in communications, so I
Oh,
always
good.
know, like, make sure you get your levels
Exactly.
right.
I always end up adjusting things after the fact.
So
and
yeah, so
it's
I'll
good.
just keep practicing
Yeah,
and talking.
keep
This is
talking,
kind of
yeah.
my voice and
Okay, that'll work.
where I go. Okay.
Great. Well, I am privileged to be at Ohlone College today for this episode. I am with Dr. Bishop, who is the president of Ohlone College, and Dr. Bishop has been here for 2 years, the COVID years. So, Dr. Bishop, thank you so much for joining me today for this episode.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, I was just telling you, and I know this is kind of the landscape, or I view the college as kind of part of the landscape of the hills of Fremont. You see these buildings up on the hills, and I use the parking garage down here to do my hikes up into Mission Peak, and I look down and I can see activity happening, like a water polo match or different things like that happening. But I really don't know much. This is the first time I've actually been in a facility at Ohlone College. So can you tell me in a nutshell what Ohlone College is, or what it has been for this community over the time that it's been here?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. So one of the things is funny that you talk about, you just consider it part of the landscape and the hills, because one of the values I wanted to bring when I arrived, and not to say I wasn't here before, is to really make sure that people know that Ohlone College is part of the community and not apart from the community, right? We call ourselves a community college, so it's important that community is someone we engage with and we know the people and the people know us. So I'm glad we kind of started there, because that's really important, which is why I try to be active in the community and work with the service clubs.
That's great.
We're one of the 116 colleges in the California community college system whose real mission is to provide access to higher education and quality higher education at an affordable cost, in a way to make sure that everyone who wants to have a college experience has the ability. And so Ohlone's been around for about 55 years.
Okay.
And, the building you're sitting in, funny you said that, is one of our new academic core buildings that were part of the Measure G construction bond. And
Okay.
it's great to have always great to have public members in it, because it's the tax dollars that help build it. The irony is I've been here 2 years, and for the first year I was here almost by myself, me
Wow.
and the maintenance, our maintenance and grounds crew. So the building opened in 2020 in January. So our faculty and staff and students only got about 5 weeks in the building
Wow.
before, the shutdown came, and so it sat relatively empty.
Wow, that's amazing. And did you come into the office and work here then throughout COVID as well as the new president?
I did every day. So my entire interview experience was via Zoom, because
Okay.
I came up to Fremont from Southern California.
Okay.
And it didn't make sense to have moved up to the north and sit somewhere else.
Right.
I could have done that and stayed in Southern California.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it was really important for me to be on campus for a few reasons. One, in order to be president of the college, I really needed to feel like I understood the college. And there's nothing like that physical presence of being here. I also wanted, the members of the college who didn't know me, hadn't met me, to at least know that their president was at the college and that this wasn't a fearful place. This wasn't a place where it couldn't be. I joked at one point that the college is probably one of the safest places in the area. What makes it dangerous is when all the people come back.
Right.
But it was really important just for psychological purposes to feel like I was at the college, able to walk the campus and get because I took the job sight unseen.
Wow, really?
Had not been to the college. I was scheduled to come up for interviews, and that's when the shutdown happened. They said, "Well, we're going to do everything via Zoom."
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. So let's go back to your experience, maybe your verbal resume here. So what is your experience? You came from Southern California. Where did you go to school? Did you grow up in Southern California? What's your background?
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles. Was a LA Unified kid, and then went to college out of high school to a small private university of Laverne, in Laverne, California. And that really was where I was supposed to be. I did a little bit of time at a community college, not during tradition. I just did summers at West Los Angeles College. And then graduated from Laverne, got a job, worked there, became a communications assistant. That's when I found, that was a journalism major.
Okay.
But really found while I was working with students on the newspaper and helping them, really just love that student interaction and guiding students and helping students and using the experience I had to navigate the system to help them either navigate or not make the same mistakes I made in going through the system. And so then got a job for a magazine in Illinois for a couple of years, did that. Then I got a call and was asked to come back to the university as a faculty member and did that for 7 years. And then became an administrator to direct academic advising, which was, again, helping students, navigate the system and graduate. And in 2007, I moved over to Chaffey College in Rancho Cucamonga as dean of one of their centers, the Fontana Center, which is why being at a college that has a center like Newark resonates with me to make sure that population is taken care of.
Right, because this isn't the only campus, right? This is we have one campus up on the hills, but then there's another one in Newark. Is those the only two campuses?
Yes, those are the only two physical campuses, but we also consider our online offerings a campus. So we really kind of say, even though officially they don't count it, but we say we have 3.
That's awesome.
And so then I was at Chaffey for 13 years and just kind of moved up and became vice president of student services and did that for about 6 years before the Ohlone opportunity came. And the beautiful thing was I wasn't looking for a presidency. My president, who has been a mentor, was saying, "You're going to be a president. You need to start looking. You need to." He had sent me to some things and was helping help me navigate the process.
Sure.
Really, it was the consultant called me and said, "Hey, there's this college." I looked at it, said, "Wow, it sounds like a good fit." They talked about diversity. I looked at the population, said, "Sounds like a college I could really." Feel, because I'm very big on not just applying the jobs to apply for jobs.
Yeah.
I really, when you look at my resume, you see I stay for a while, and so it's not. It's
it sounds process. Like it. I mean, you have it does sound like an impressive resume, and it seems that even though you've moved from one place to the next, I mean, you're at one place for 13 years, or you're at another place for 7 or 8 years. I mean, that's a significant time, especially in the academic world. I think nowadays you just don't see people staying put for long periods of time.
Yeah, you could. I mean, in terms of academic circles, Ohlone is only the 3rd college I've worked at since 1988.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Now, you said you did your undergrad in journalism, and then did you have any other postgraduate degrees then, or graduate degrees?
So all of my degrees are from the University of Laverne. I just kind of stayed. Bachelor's in journalism, then got a master's in communications, which was focused on mass communication, radio, television, and then. Once I became a faculty member, said, okay, I probably should go get a doctorate. And went and got the doctorate, mostly just because I had this inkling that I may want to be a college president.
Sure.
It was more of, I may need this one day. It wasn't, it was just about, just in case I ever needed it, I had it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, you're the first Black president of Ohlone College. I think that's significant. And but I want to ask you, in your journey of of your own college experience and your own academic employment over the years, like how has that diversity, or how has you being a black man in the academic world, how has that affected your journey in getting to where you are now? Has it been something that's been challenging, or has it been something that hasn't been so much challenging?
I think it's probably been both. So I grew up in LA at a time when Central LA was mostly African American and black. It was, the culture shock for me was when I went to the University of Laverne and was really for the first time felt like a minority, was in a minority community, because it was a predominantly white institution. And so I navigated that. As, I've always been, my mother taught me that people are people. So I've always navigated myself to people who care about me and who are good people. So it really hasn't mattered. And I feel real fortunate that I had that, that upbringing. As I've navigated this space, I probably have been more naive than either I should be or just could be to being the first sometimes in spaces or recognizing the significance of that. So when I got to Ohlone, it was, it was pretty spelled out. Well, there were two major factors. One, it was spelled out I was the first African American president. But two, I also had the honor, pleasure, opportunity to come in right on the heels of COVID, at the beginning of COVID, but on the heels of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and kind of what was that summer reckoning of 2020, which I think added opportunity and pressure to have a voice, right? So it gave opportunities because people wanted to see change, and I think the college community wanted to see change, recognizing that there were issues in Fremont that I, did not know about, and there were protests in Fremont that were great. And so I walked into a community meeting as soon as I got here with the city, and it was wonderful to see the community come out. But on the campus, a campus that had banners that had Black Lives Matter and talked about our diversity and celebrating our diversity made me feel like I was at the right place at the right time. And to bring a perspective that was unique in the seat and say, okay, if we really want to follow where society is going or be ahead of society, here are the things we need to do. Here's the lens with which I can bring, and let's try to do that.
That's great. I think that sometimes, and I think it's great that you're here. And to hear how your mother, even helped you understand the dynamics of, a human community versus, a different ethnicities or different color or racial communities. My son was born in Baltimore, and that's where I lived before moving here. We were in the city, and he was very recognizable. I'll say that. We were in a very inner city area. He's blonde and white, and he was just the only kid out there in that community. But then even coming here to Fremont, he was in the public school system, and the same thing. But it was, you have a lot of the Asian community, Indian, Middle Eastern, and so on. But I love that for my son. I love that for him to be able to be a part of that community, be a part of this community, be exposed to the different ethnicities, different colors of people. And I think it's important. But a lot of times we can allow these discussions of color or race become a primary identifier of one person between us and another. And I'm just wondering, you as an individual, what are some of the things that you would consider to be identification? If you wanted people to think about you, who is Dr. Bishop? What would you like for people to know about you, and not just that you're the first African American president? Maybe not even that you were in journalism, but or maybe that is it. What is it that you would like people to know about you? I mean, what do you like to eat, or what kind of hobbies do you like to do, or what all Are you a Warriors fan? I mean, you weren't from the Bay, so I mean,
I am not a Warriors fan.
Okay.
I am a Lakers fan and a Dodger fan. Although when the Lakers have been down, which has been more than they've been up of late, I have been excited watching the Warriors. And it's really funny because I watched Steph Curry when he was in college at Davidson. So felt kind of natural for me to watch him with Golden State and Klay Thompson. His father's an announcer for the Lakers, so I had already kind of felt like I knew him. Okay. So there was a little bit of a connection. It's not easy, but we had to root for somebody, and they made the game exciting. And so, but I still have, my heart is still purple and gold and blue and white. Right now I'm just trying to learn the community. It's been interesting because I've been in the Bay, but I couldn't go eat. I couldn't try restaurants. I couldn't get to see the attractions. So I'm really excited to do that. Yeah. I think, really the thing I want people to know is beyond those kind of personal things is that, I love education. The reason I do this is because I've always believed it is the great equalizer, right? It's the thing that no one can take from you. You get an education and you have that. You have that learning. And that everyone has the opportunity or the right to access to a quality higher education. And so I love trying to create that access and make it simple. And the beauty, at our commencement a couple of weeks ago, we had our oldest graduate was 68 years old, and our youngest was 17. And that warms my heart because it's the reminder that it's never too late to start learning. It's never too late to fulfill a dream. It's never too late, to get better education. And so I want to be in the community. I know that Fremont has a very high standard for education, but the cost of education over the last 3 decades has skyrocketed to the point where, you have in your backyard one of the top transfer institutions in the state, and you can still graduate from Berkeley or wherever for half the cost if Ohlone is the first step in those first 2 years. And so, that's that package. You're still a Cal Bear or a Stanford Cardinal or a Spartan, wherever those are, but you don't have to spend what you spend. I did the calculation once, and depending on the institution you go to, a 4-year education is almost more than $500,000.
Wow!
If you consider tuition room and board, if you're looking at a private institution,
that's incredible.
Like a Stanford, it's suddenly $50,000, $60,000 just for tuition. You're well over $100,000 just in costs per year. So times 4.
That's incredible. Wow. So as you're looking forward then, I know obviously your last 2 years have been very unusual and even personally very unusual. What do you hope as students start filling the campus again and as you move forward? I know you've already said some of these things, but if you were to look at, where you are 5 years from now, and I know that's kind of a common question, like what are some of the things that you hope to see happen here on Ohlone College campus?
5 years from now, we will be the first stop in higher education in the East Bay or in the Bay.
Yeah.
That would be my vision and my goal. But I think we'll be known as the place that you can come and get the quality education, and your background doesn't matter. You can start from scratch. What I love about community college is it allows you to reinvent yourself. You could have been the screw up in high school. You could be the jokester, or you can be the person who's just a late bloomer whose grades didn't show in sophomore and junior years, but now the light comes on, and you can come here and no one knows, right? And you just get to start all over, and that's your academic record.
Wow. What would you say to someone? Because I've heard this more than a few times recently. What would you say to someone who says that education is in the past, or you don't need a college degree to succeed? Because you were saying just a minute ago, and I do agree with you. You were saying that education is something that people can't take away from you, but there are things there are people out there that I think are being convinced to succeed, and I think some of them are fortunate to be able to find good careers without having gone to college or without completing college. But what would you say to someone, the average person, who says, I don't know if I want to go to college because I don't know if it's really worth it? What would you say about that?
I wouldn't have a pat answer. I'd say let's talk about that, because I think what happens, because of the nature of the time we live in, we live in the time of instant media, of tweets, of Instagram posts. So everything is quick and immediate. And so I think what they look at is they look at the exceptionals, right? And they look at the folks who didn't go to college and became multimillionaires and billionaires. But look at how many, they're one out of how many, right? That hit that level. Right. You don't need there are a lot of things you can do, and I'm the first to admit that you don't need a higher education, you don't need a degree. I think what it does, what I would say is it adds to your opportunities if you're not the exceptional one. So if you're not that one in 100,000 who can begin that startup and take it to that level, then yes. I think what I like to think we do is we create generational wealth. And what I mean by that is I've always considered our jobs to provide the next step or we as parents, our goal is to provide better for our children so they don't have to go through what we went through. So what we offer is that ability to level up, and so that your kids start at a level up.
That's good.
There are, a quick story.
Yeah.
I went to high school. One of my best friends from elementary and high school, smartest guy in the class, great guy. We were graduating. Everybody's trying to go to UCLA. I'm thinking I'm going to go to San Diego State. Wind up at, like, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to LA Trade Tech. I'm going to be a plumber. Like, really? Like, this is the guy who got accepted everywhere. He's like, I want to be a plumber. When I thought about that years later, I thought, wow. He went to LA Trade Tech. He became a plumber. He worked for the city of Los Angeles. Over the first 20 years out of high school, and if you looked at probably our upward mobility and our earnings, I was nowhere near him. And he had not racked up the debt or the cost for education that I had. And he had gotten into a field that paid well, allowed him to do his own thing. So it took me that long for my education to pay off. But the other thing I'll say is I also wasn't crawling under houses. I also wasn't, I paid for not having to do the things that he was doing. So I think there's opportunity for both. But I think there's a certain motivation if you don't get the paper that you have to have, and a certain drive or certain luck or certain privilege or certain whatever that makes that true.
That's good.
I think the question you asked about education, I'm going to paraphrase, education being passé or old or something. Yeah. I think there's truth in that. I think we're at a point where we have to reinvent ourselves as traditional educators to meet with the needs of society. And I think that's a hard thing for us to do. We don't like responding to our constituents. We like to make our constituents respond to us. And I think that's going to be the challenge that we see in the future. And the pandemic has allowed people to say, I'm going to reprioritize. I'm not sure what I want, but I don't have to rush anything. So I think we have to really think about what education looks like in the future to answer that question, because I think there's validity there.
So as we look at education, what education looks like in the future, what are you excited about that's happening here at Ohlone College that maybe a student or a parent or somebody can look at and just say, what are my options? What is the scope of opportunity that I have for my student or for me if I go to Ohlone College? What are you excited about?
I think I'm excited. I'm really excited about the faculty we have and who are really conscientious and the opportunities that students have to get engaged. One of the things we're hoping to do is to enhance the student experience by adding residential student housing, because I think there's a need for students to have affordable housing in this area.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely.
And I think we will enhance our opportunity to create certificates and career education so students cannot think about having to go be a lawyer or a doctor and say, hey, I just want to go get a degree or a certificate or a degree and go get in the workforce, and we can do that training. I think partnering with the communities, working with our employers, and creating I think we're in a real unique situation, particularly in South Alameda County, to create a model where our students can stay home and can reinvest back in the community and don't have to leave.
That's great. That's great. I really like that. Well, I appreciate all your time, and I appreciate you sharing all of this with me, with our listeners. I'm going to ask you one quick question as we close. Is there one place in Fremont that you have found now that you've been here for a couple of years that you just love to go to? And it doesn't even have to be anything significant. Like you just kind of feel like maybe this is the one place that I visited for the first time, really like that, or I've been there a few times and I enjoy that. Is there any place in Fremont right now? I imagine it could be right across the street too. I mean, there's places right here in Mission San Jose.
There's three.
Oh, good. All right.
I just kind of Mission Coffee.
Oh yeah,
that's nice. Their sandwiches. Close by. Yeah. Mission Pizza. And Carnitos Mexican restaurant.
Okay. Where's that? Is that
it's right next to Mission Pizza.
That's awesome. I love Mission Pizza.
Yeah.
And
I have a big fondness for small businesses, for independently owned businesses, and I think during the pandemic, one of the things we tried to do as a college was shop local, shop independent. I really felt like the corporations were going to be here regardless, but if we can make a difference to that individual and keep them going, and it's important. But I love so far I love those businesses.
That's great. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to squeeze into your day here and allowing me to see the beautiful campus for the first time. This is a real privilege, so really appreciate all of that.
Thank you for the opportunity. I loved it, and I appreciate it. And feel free anytime if you have more questions, or when when your listeners say, "Hey, we need to know X," then reach out to Greg, and we'll be right here.
Absolutely. And if there's anything that I can do as well, if you guys are getting ready to ramp up for the new school year, and you want me to give a shout out for any reason, or we want to do another interview, I'm all yours. I live 10 minutes down the road, so I can be here pretty quickly. Thank you. Yeah.
You've been listening to the Fremont Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. To stay connected with us, you can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. Special thanks to the Washington Township Museum of Local History for access to their historical audio archives for our moment in history. And thanks to Andrew Cavett for curating the audio and settings. I'm Gary Williams. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
Muggins Media.